Hey guys, and welcome to another IKinema tutorial. In this video, I'm gonna talk about the Lookat task. And to begin with, I want to mention I made a little mistake in the previous video, so I'm gonna correct that. I actually added a comment somewhere. If we click inside the, no, sorry, not here, inside the animation blueprint, on the foot placement behavior, I actually set this line trace scale to 0.1, 0.5, and what that is going to do is it's going to cause some jittery when walking downstairs, up and downstairs. So we actually need to set that back to 1. So I'm just going to correct that mistake as the first thing. So that's going to create a way more smooth behavior. Okay, so we will still have this problem with very high steps. I haven't figured out how to adjust that, but I'm gonna try and figure out something still. With that out of the way, let's take a look at how we can make our character look at something. So if we switch into the constraints, we can see I actually already added a task for the spine. I can't remember if I did that off video. I'm just going to delete that so everything is done in this video. So what we want to do, I'm going to switch back to bone view. What we want to do is to add a constraint to the spine 3. So that's going to be a chest task. And we're also going to add a task for the head as a head task. So that means we're going to get these two green thingies here. So what they do is to allow a way to tell the solver that we want our spine and our head to look at these two targets here, or in a general direction as they point right now. And actually one thing I thought about since I made the last video is that inside here they call it constraints, and they refer to constraints as tasks internally. I keep getting confused what a task really is, but when I start to think of them as a constraint, it makes a little bit more sense. So when we talk about constraints, in my head, it makes a little bit more sense to just think of them as a constraint. So if you are familiar with animation and may have watched some of my motion builder tutorials, I kind of like to think of them as an effector, something which drives some motion. But that's just my interpretation of this, so I don't know if that makes sense for you guys. But anyway, I guess IKinema has a good reason to call them tasks instead of an effector, because they might not be an effector. But anyway, so we just added these two tasks or constraints inside the rig. And what we're going to build in here is actually just, I'm just going to be lazy and drag in another copy of our character here. Just going to swing him around. And I want to make this our guy look at this guy here. So in order to do that, our guy, the one we are possessing, needs to know about this guy here. So inside our level blueprint, I have my own character selected now. I'm going to open that up. And on begin play, I am gonna right click and say create a reference to third person character. Now this pops up because I have this one selected. So if I select the other one and also go into the here and right click, we can now get a reference to the third person character too, which is going to be our target. So on our third person character blueprint, we want to save a reference to that because that's gonna be what is driving our Lookat target. let's see. I actually seem to have some stuff already in here. I'm just gonna get rid of that because I think I might have created that while I was testing something. Let's just get rid of that. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So we're gonna create a variable in here to hold that reference. So we're gonna call that the Lookat Target. Target actor, and make that a type of, this needs to be the general actor class here. So that means we have access to that one in here. So I'm going to compile that, and on begin play we're going to set Lookat target actor to be equal to that other guy, this one here, which is this guy here, the one we want to look at. Okay, so on every tick we want to make sure to update a position for this, and the position is going to be updating, it's going to be something we do inside the animation blueprint. I'm going to get to that in a minute. So we need a vector to drive that. As you can see, I actually did some stuff off video, but I'm just gonna delete that. So what we're gonna do here is add this variable as a vector and call this Lookat Target. And that's what we wanna drive the position. So on every tick, we want to make sure that we have that in case the target actor is moving. In this case, the target actor is actually stationary, so it's not that important. But say it was a NPC walking around, we want to look at him. We need to do this on every tick. So get the Lookat Target. We want to make sure that this is valid. So drag that in here, and if this is valid, we want to get the location of this guy here. So get vector's location, and that we want to feed into the animation blueprint Lookat Target. So get the anim instance and cast this to our animation blueprint like that, and we want to set Lookat Target, this one, and we want to set that equal to this one. Okay, so now we have a position. We can drive the target, the Lookat Target from. So let's compile that and jump into the animation blueprint and see how we can get our character to actually look at this stuff here. So if we, as you can see here, we have these default tasks that we created last time. We don't have anything down here, but we're missing the head Lookat task. So if we right click up here and refresh the node, we would expect it to show up. So it actually doesn't. So I believe this is a bug. And what you can do also down here, I'm just gonna untick that one. Under offsets down here, we have something called expose solver tasks. I have that enabled. So if I check that one and refresh, I would expect something to show up here, and it doesn't right now. So in the case for the foot placement node, what we can do is to go down to links here. We have the new IKinema rig. We can just clear that one and then just set it again, and then we can refresh this set of nodes. That's going to show all these tasks. And it also shows the head task now, so we have both of these down here. Unfortunately, this doesn't work for the general solver node. So just clearing this one and setting this one and trying to refresh doesn't do anything. So the only way I've could figure out how to work around this is actually to delete this one. So once I add it again, you can see I get these tasks back again. So that's a bit of a bummer, but luckily it's not something you probably need to do very often. So I'm just going to connect everything up in here, because that's all the tasks that we use when we are jumping, and we don't want it to do anything really. Okay, let's see. So when we want to be able to look when we jump. So and we also want to be able to look when we walk. So we need to connect whatever we want to drag out here to both of these nodes here. So I'm going to drag out from just one of them and say make IKinema Lookat Task. It's going to create this node here, and we can expand that as a fairly big one. And we're going to connect that up to both the head and the spine for this one, and the head and the spine for this one. Because when you look, you want to both have the head and the chest to be affected by this constraint here. So the Lookat task is our Lookat target, this one, this position. We don't want to touch the Lookat axis. This is okay for now. I haven't figured out how to use the position task. And the reduce weight, I'm going to get back to that in a moment. And also the target, I have no idea how it works. It says representing the task in solver space or the offset of the animation. I don't know what that is for, but I know this one is what we need to drive the Lookat behavior. So the alpha is going to be 1 because we want our character to look, and we want to enable translation and orientation, so that something works. So if we compile that and try and play, we're going to see some behavior on the head, but he's not looking, but the other one is looking down, as we see. But he's not looking at the character right now, and that's because this one is says representing a target in component space. So this one, I believe, influences this task here, target here, because checking this one didn't do anything. So I don't believe this one is really affecting this one. I assume it should. So I'm not really sure if this is a bug or it's just the way it works. So anyway, just worth noting. So this Lookat task is in the wrong space. So as you see here, this is get actual location. This is actually in world space. So we need to convert this Lookat task inside our third-person character into component space, and we do that by dragging out the mesh and then saying get world transform, and then we can use inverse transform location. So we are taking our mesh transform and converting our world space location into a component space by this. I hope that made a little bit sense. That's at least how I understand this. Okay, so if we compile this again and save, we should see something different now. So we can see he's actually looking after this one. So as you can see, when I pass him, when I get gradually further away from him, he's gonna first he's gonna look at him like something is up with him, and when he get further away, he's gonna look back. So as far as I understand, this reduced weight means that if we get behind, he will keep looking, as you can see here. So if you check that one, he will still keep looking. So while the reduced weight does actually seem to be working, well, semi-okay, it still causes some problems now and then. I'll get back to that in probably in the next video. But for now, if we observe the chest and the spine and the hips of our character as he's standing here, one thing to note is that he's actually looking down at the other guy's pelvis, and that's because the location of the character here is it's positioned right here in the middle. And usually if you're looking at somebody, you would probably want to look at the guy's head. So just in order to get this to look a little bit better, we're going to take this position here, and just gonna, we can do this in a number of ways. I'm just gonna break this one and split it up and add a little offset to the z-axis, like 50 units, and then make a new vector out of this. Not that one, this one and this one. So it's going to put that location about eye height, so it looks a little bit better. Okay, so what we should also do is tweak a little bit on the behavior on the rig. So it's worth noting that the hip is right now not turning very much, and I have some notes here, just need to put over here. So the pelvis, for example, we should make sure that it rotates a little bit more, and we have a pelvis task here, so I'm inside the constraints. So this constraint says that the rotation weight should follow this task by a weight of 100. So in order to get a little bit more influence from the Lookat tasks, we should put this somewhat lower. I hope that makes sense. So that means that whatever we have on other tasks will have more influence. So if we check the head task, it has a weight, it has a rotation weight. Actually, it has a position weight of 0. I don't know if that's okay, but it has a rotation weight of 30. And we could try and up this one like 50, so it has a little bit more influence. And the spine, we could also maybe say, well, let's just say 100, both for the rotation and the position. Oops. So let's see how that looks. So I don't know if it's visible really, but he should be starting to turn his hip a little bit more, and then he's going to gradually turn away. So it still causes a little bit of issue because he's going to keep watching for quite a long time. So the reduced weight does some of the job for you, but it doesn't really do everything for you. So this is where I would add in a little thing. But let's just finish the adjustments on the rig first, and then take a look at that as the last thing. Or maybe I just cover that in the next video, actually. I think that's a good idea. So inside the bone view, what we should tweak here is the weights on the spine. Now, they have weights quite a number of places, and it's frankly a little bit confusing because they use this. It's easy to mistake things for the same. So when we are inside the bone view, we have something called weight here, and this weight determines how big. You can look at this, how flexible this joint is going to be. Or how much resistance it's going to be making. So a value of 1 is going to be the default, and the lower you set this, the more flexible this joint will be during the solving. So In the video IKinema made with this setup here, they set it to 0.5, so it's fairly stiff, but not as stiff as default. And then the next joint is going to be 0.3. So I'm just going to be reusing those values and see what they give us. So that means that it's going to be gradually, because we lower the values, it's going to be gradually getting more flexible. And at the spine, it's a little bit more stiff. And at the pelvis right now, it's pretty well. It's a default. We could maybe try and tweak a little bit on that as well, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. On the constraint for the head, I noticed. I think it's actually on the bone for the head. We have a retargeting gain of 0.1, and that basically means that this head task has quite a lot of solving influence. So what can maybe be a bit confusing is because some of these values, they seem to be affecting kind of the same from as me, developer perspective, but inside the solver itself, I'm pretty sure it has completely different meanings. So that's why it does require a fair amount of experimentation to get the behavior that you want. Right. So let's see how this looks now. So it's like he's turning a little bit more his upper body. And you may notice this when he's turning around. He's doing something with the head, which I don't think is really realistic. So I'm just gonna make a key here just for debugging purposes, so it's easier to see. So I'm gonna set global time dilatation 0.1, so we can slow down time, and when we hold this down and set this back to 1 when we release this one. So when we walk here and then turn back, this time it looked correct. Okay, damn it. Damn it. Alright, so if you slow down time, it's actually not doing it. Or maybe I just, okay, here. God damn it. I'm trying to prove a point here. Yeah, there you see it. So that's definitely something that the solver doesn't just give you out of the box. It's something you need to do something about yourself. Okay, so as the last thing in this video, since it's getting fairly long, one thing that kept bugging me in the beginning was that our characters stand like this. So one way to get rid of that is go into the animation blueprint and go to the edit defaults and say this Lookat Target. We want to set maybe to 100. Whoops, that's a little bit too much. And maybe set the y-axis to 500. So like something like that. So when we play the map, they look a little bit more correct. It's kind of annoying to have them both look into the ground. So it's just a little tip. Anyway, that's just the complete basics of creating a Lookat task. I hope I covered everything. And in case you have questions, just comment on the video. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.